Okay, so here I want to show you question number 5, which says find the domain of the function. So let me go to the notes really quick. We have, let me go there real quick. So some good notes on this, the exam 1 notes. If I can find them down here. Where are my exam 1 notes? Okay, there they are. So domain, solving, one-to-one, domain, there we go. Yeah, so there we go, find the domain of a function. So this is from the notes, and bring it over, show it to you. There it is. Okay, so finding the domain, how do you do it? Well, number 1, denominators cannot be 0. Number 2, inside of a square root is greater than or equal to 0, right? And then go on from there. So number 1, denominators cannot be 0. So let me do that. So let me say, okay, denominator, that's the denominator, x squared minus 16, not equal to 0. See that? Right, denominator not equal to 0. Why? Because if the bottom of a fraction is 0, you can try it in your calculator. Take like 7 over 0 or something like that. It's infinity. Your calculator will say error. It's not a number. You can't divide by 0. Why? Because 0 will go into 7 forever, right? Right. A fraction means divide. Like 10 divided by 2 is 5 because 2 goes into 10 5 times, right? Well, 0 goes into anything forever. It's infinity. That's why your calculator gives you error. So we can't let the bottom of a fraction, the denominator, ever be 0. So we say denominator, you're not allowed to be 0. That's domain. Domain is what's acceptable, what's allowable. For functions in math and science, there's certain things that are allowed and certain things that are not allowed. Denominators cannot be 0. So we cannot let the denominator be 0. So we say denominator, you cannot be 0. So that's the first thing we do. So we say, all right, denominator, you cannot be 0. What about the top? We don't care. We don't care. In fact, that's all we're going to do on this. I'm going to finish it now, but I wanted you to show we don't have a number 2 because that's about square roots. We don't have any square roots. And there's nothing here about the numerator, is there? So that's all we're going to do. But now how do you solve this? You got to finish it. What do you do? Well, you add 16. It's a not equals equation, but you treat it just like you would an equals equation. So you get x squared not equal to plus 16. Now, I wonder if you know what to do now. You square root both sides, but plus or minus. A lot of people forget that. You have to put, when you do square root on both sides, you've got to do plus or minus. Square root of 16 is 4. And that's not equal. You've got to do plus or minus. Let me make a special note of that. When you root both sides, plus minus, you got to put plus or minus. So many students forget this so often that I made up a dorky saying. You might have seen it in one of the other videos. When you put a roof on your house, you got to go up and down the ladder. Sorry, it's really dorky. Do you understand what I'm saying? Plus and minus is like my up down. So if you just think real life, you said, I got to put a new roof on my house. My roof's broken. I'm going to put a new piece of roof up there. I have to go get a ladder and go up and down the ladder, right? So if you put a root on both sides, you've got to go plus or minus up and down the ladder. So there you go. It's dorky. Hopefully that'll help you remember. Whenever you root both sides of an equation, you've got to do plus or minus, or you're missing half of the truth. You might say, why? Why do you have to? Well, because x squared equals 16, that could be 4 or negative 4 squared is 16, huh? It's both answers, really. So you got to remember, do plus or minus. Anyway, so this means x does not equal, so this means x does not equal plus 4, and x does not equal minus 4, right? It's both plus and minus 4. Both are not. And if you just want to write this on the exam, you just want to type in, you can just literally type in x not equal 4 and x not equal negative 4. That's fine. I give you a couple people did that. I gave them full credit. But I did ask you to answer using interval notation. So let me show you how to do that. But again, I was okay on this one. You didn't. A couple people got credit by just kind of leaving it that way, and that's fine. But I'll show the interval notation. So I've got to make on this interval situation. So here's negative 4. Here's positive. Like here's like 0, and there's a bunch of other numbers. Anyway, so we're saying anything's okay, but you can't be 4 and you can't be negative 4. So what does that mean? That means all the numbers are okay. All of this is okay, but not right there. Put a hole there. And all of this is okay, but not right there. And all of this is okay, right? Everything's okay except for those two spots. You cannot equal 4 and you cannot equal -4. Well, how do you write that as an interval then? Well, you remember intervals are chunks of the number line. How many? We have 1, 2, 3 chunks. We're saying all the numbers from -infinity up to -4, unite, right? That's this chunk. And then there's the middle chunk, which goes from -4 to +4, united with, and then there's the last chunk, which goes from 4 to regular infinity, right? This is positive infinity on the right, negative infinity on the left. See how those are all parentheses? No, because, and that means, you remember, only brackets with a straight edge are straight on the number. We don't have any brackets here. We have parentheses. Why? Because we're not straight on the number. We're just around it. Parentheses are rounded. You're around the 4, but not right on the 4. So this interval and this interval are both around the 4, but you're not straight on the 4. Do you see the 4 is being left out, which is correct. We're supposed to not equal 4 and not equal -4. So if I put a bracket here, like that or like that, then we would be including the 4 in those two different groups. But we don't want to include the 4. We want to say 4, you're out. You cannot equal 4 and -4. So we want parentheses on the 4 and over here on the -4 as well, parentheses on all the 4s and -4s, because we do not want to include 4 or -4. So basically that includes all the numbers from -infinity up to -4, not including -4, all the way up to +4, not including +4, all the way to infinity. This is basically saying all numbers, except we never included -4 or +4, because we always had parentheses, not brackets, next to them. Now, it probably won't be this way on the retake exam or the final exam. There's different domain questions, right? We had ones with square roots, like it says down here. There's a whole different thing we did with square roots. We had those in the practice exam. We had those in the homework. Make sure you go back and know those. Don't just memorize this and think you're good for the retake exam. It's going to be just like this. It won't. I have several versions. The final will be different. You have to really learn everything on the homework, everything on the practice exam, because it's all fair game for the actual exam. So this is just one of many types. So go back to the homework, go back to the practice exam for starters, and find the domain question in the practice exam. Go back and practice that to be ready for, if you want, you're ready for the retake. So there we go.